Why is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
I have been reading the most amazing book, and it seems like something you might dig.
Okay.
History. It's called Blitzed. Don't know if you've heard of this.
No.
It is a history of drug use in Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, I totally love that.
So apparently, and the guy who wrote it, I believe he's Werner Herzog's sons or one of his sons.
Okay.
And so was able to go into the two or three places that keep all the military papers, both in Germany and I guess a huge dump are in Virginia in the National Archives. But because Hitler's personal doctor had all this weird notations, it was hard to tell what was what. But the reason they were able to steamroll France and just take over that country in a weekend is because every single soldier was basically on meth or speed for the weekend.
Oh my God.
And they just said, you're not going to sleep for 3 days. And everyone was just like, all right, cool, let's do this. And so they just had this energy that just took them through France. And that's the thing that made it happen.
Wow.
And that Hitler, the big vegetarian, all this time is having all these various, what are they? Antibodies, various things from various, like his personal physician had every abattoir was sending all the stuff they didn't want to him to start making various adrenal glands and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so like, yes, Hitler was a vegetarian, but if you had looked at his blood, you would have been like, this guy's a meat eater. But my favorite fun fact that I've learned from this whole thing, and the whole book's amazing and just super interesting, and the history of even before that in Germany where certain drugs were legal and the parties. There's that documentary on Netflix about like the clubs pre-war where there's a ton of cross-dressing and gay lifestyle just out in the open, and it's just like come one, come all, quite literally.
Welcome.
Exactly. On June 6th, the Allies are invading. Everyone around Hitler is like, sees the writing on the wall that this is not going well.
Right.
Hitler's in a good mood. Why? Because Goebbels decided to stop smoking that day. Again, I just like all of it. Like,
okay.
All the terrible things about this guy. Well, what's the one good thing? Oh, he quit smoking. Great.
He quit smoking.
He took it up 2 weeks later when he suddenly saw what was happening to all of Europe. Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh, it's the old joke about who was it? I mean, you could even use it about Hitler after when he died, like, as they're lying there in the burned out bunker. Hitler's also trying to stop smoking, but for different reasons.
Right.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
So how did you get into the escape room business? Were you trapped in something initially and thought this was fun?
Yeah, I was. I had been working for a major mattress retailer that is everywhere around the country, and it was a horrifying job. I was a traveling manager and was just not in any way happy. And I've been a stand-up comedian and an indie film actor for several years, and I felt like I needed a change. So I literally went on Craigslist one day after I was done selling my soul for mattresses.
Right. The birthplace of all great ideas.
Yeah, and I saw an ad for a GM for a newly opening escape room in Milwaukee, and I didn't really know what an escape room was. And so I went and I interviewed, and I got hired the same day, and we opened later that same day. They were kind of desperate.
You don't say. Wow. Is this part of a chain of escape rooms? Is this something of its own being?
Yes. No, this is, if not the largest in the country, probably top 3, I'd say. It's called Escape the Room. They were the first company to sort of expand. We have about 20 locations nationwide.
Okay. And how many different adventures, let's call them that, versus panic attacks, which is what I would call them?
My location has 4.
Okay.
We've got 4 differently themed rooms. Throughout the company, I'd say we probably have a dozen to 15 different rooms that are dispersed throughout the different locations.
And how does it work? Are there levels of difficulty? Are they all the same?
There are levels of difficulty. Yes. Our particular kind of an industry sort of secret, I guess, if you're looking for one of those, would be that we tell people that our easiest room is a roughly 25% success rate. Then the next level up would be about 20%, then about 15, then about 12. And in the real world, they're roughly the same difficulty. There's just different exercises that one has to do in them. Some are heavy with math, which makes them seem more difficult. But
yeah.
But you're allowed to use your phone, so you can just do all the math on a calculator.
But I feel like that means it's not just like addition, and that's like math that involves things that I never mastered.
Oh, there's that square root symbol
algebra
coming in.
There's
Yeah,
algebra involved and things like
There's
that.
like the geometries and things like that.
So are they all the same theme? Are there different themes, or
No,
is there
they're different
story?
themes.
Okay.
My location, for instance, has a 1980s themed room called the Rec Room.
Okay.
I feel like I could ace this, but then you say that there's math and things, and I would be instantly frustrated and breaking. I would turn it into a rage room, and then I would not be welcome back. I would get it let out immediately.
I'm just picturing it like kind of a Scarface thing, where it's like once you find the mountain of cocaine somewhere, you can solve
But see,
everything
then
very
I'd want a
quickly.
better outfit. I'd be like, where is my
true.
dress?
Yeah. I guess
The mountains of cocaine can only be found in my back office.
That's extra.
But
Okay,
as far as
gotcha.
what's
Yeah.
available to
All right.
to the customers, they have to do the regular game. But like in the 80s room, part of the game is we have are you familiar with Pong, the original first video game? We've got a version of Pong, and it's programmed, you play against the computer, and it's programmed to just destroy your soul. It's virtually impossible. So they have to spend like 20 minutes trying to beat Pong against the computer. You have to play air hockey.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. You're good.
Finally,
This
you
is
say something that I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I am in. Okay.
Trivia.
I'm in the game now.
There's music that plays a part in it. There's music playing over the PA. You have
I've got 2 rounds I can handle.
Yep.
But there's a math equation involved in the music. It's really cool.
That's when I start crying.
Now I'm in detention. Now we are breakfast clubbing this.
Yeah. And then we have a room called the apartment, which doesn't really have a theme. It's literally the size of, it's about 800 square feet, the apartment. It's like a decent sized little studio apartment. Just has a series of locks and things like that. You find piles of money. You've got to count all your money and things. You've got to call a Chinese food menu, and there's a Google Voice recording with an order. You have to do math involved with that. We've got a spy themed room, which is pretty common in the industry. Almost every company has a spy, James Bond kind of a themed room.
See, I was thinking Spies Like Us.
You're still in the 80s.
I'm still in the 80s. I was taking the apartment. I was thinking that I was going to get there and it was all going to be pink and fluorescent, and there was going to be a big like picture of me, but I looked just like Demi Moore in St. Elmo's Fire.
See, I just figured the 80s room would be set in a town that doesn't allow dancing, but
oh,
that's what you got to solve.
Well,
And
we've
then we
left
go,
the
like-
80s now. We
Oh, we're
left
out of the
I
80s.
know,
We're
we
just
just,
in an
we
apartment.
haven't done that ever.
Heidi has not left the 80s.
I'm the same. I'm the
Yeah.
same. I was born in 1965. The 80s are the only time I'm interested.
I mean, see, yeah, we're just trapped.
And then
We
we have
can't
a
escape,
room,
see?
yeah, and then we have a room called the Dig, which is a loosely themed sort of Da Vinci Code, Indiana Jones.
But see, that takes us back to the 80s.
Everything takes us back.
It's very
Yes.
true.
And I get another white dress.
Yeah. And your Marion Ravenwood fantasy can come true now, finally.
As it does every day. A story.
So, is there a time limit for these things? Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Because if you're spending 20 minutes trying to bust Pong, that's a huge part of an hour.
Right. It is 1 hour. And strategically, the way to do it, we frequently get like couples coming in on date night, and it's
first and last date night. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
fairly impossible for two people to do one of these unless you're a complete escape room nerd who does a lot of these.
Okay.
Ideally, you're going to want a group of like 4 to 6 people. So you got one guy working on Pong while the rest of the people are doing the other things in the room.
So funny. It's like the one guy you told, like, we're just inviting you to do Pong. So you just
Exactly.
go there and
Yeah, that's where Sauvé comes in and just does Pong.
That's totally what we put Sauvé on. Or Sandy. That's Sandy's job.
Sandy's should do that. Okay. So 4 to 6 people, that's the ideal. More than that, does it just get too many cooks in the kitchen or in the apartment, as it were?
Yes. As with, like, the apartment holds a maximum of 12 people. And that's perfect for like drunk bachelorette parties on a Saturday afternoon, or little kid birthday parties, like a bunch of 10-year-olds running around. But if you're actually trying to win and beat the room and escape, anything more than like 6 or 7 people, typically there's going to be at least 1 or 2 people who are just in the way and suggesting things that are ludicrous and trying to use clues that were already used because they're not paying attention and stuff like that.
Right. Now, how interactive is it? Obviously, like you said, there's math, there's these things to call, there's, various codes to crack and such. Are the people who work there doing things to keep the game moving?
This is a kind of a point of contention with escape rooms, because in its purest form, an escape room is kind of like a non-violent version of a Saw movie, where you're just kind of plunked in there and you got to figure it out. And then you get clues in the form of like a PowerPoint slide on the screen. The one that I run, I having a background in stand-up, I've been doing stand-up for 22 years. I hire other comedians, I hire actors, I hire artists, I hire entertaining people. So we kind of play with you while you're doing it and make it, because there's no activity in the world that isn't better if you're laughing. So
if you're being roasted, yeah.
Right, exactly. You pick a guy, you pick one person in the group and you just mess with them the whole time. Or, you make them laugh and you leave them. My policy for running the place is within 30 seconds of someone walking in the door, if they aren't laughing already before they even get in the room, we've kind of dropped the ball. And then throughout the game, you keep them laughing, you keep them engaged, you keep them having fun. And I need you laughing when you're walking out the door, giving us a 5-star review.
Right. It just seems you must have some amazing stories from being in a position where you can interact with these people and mess with them, where you just sit back, put your feet up and go, all right, you idiots, here, take this one. Go with Pong. I'll see you back after a coffee break.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what's really cool about running an escape room is very, very seldom in life, unless you're an educator, unless you're a school teacher or something, very seldom do you actually get to watch people's thought process and watch people figure things out. And it's fascinating watching people think. Because typically when you run into people and you interact with them in life, they've already done their thinking for the day, and they usually act like idiots, and they don't know
Fair.
when to turn their turn signal off, or they don't know how to use a self checkout or whatever. But watching the wheels turn is fascinating and a lot of fun. It's frustrating because a lot of people, and that might explain why this country's in the shape it's in, but a lot of people can't think their way out of a wet paper bag. Your typical person is pretty dumb.
Mm.
And they're voting and they're reproducing and they're driving cars, and you got to deal with
They're
them
operating
every
heavy
day.
machinery. Yeah.
And we get to kind of watch them be dumb.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, we also get to watch people really work things out and figure things out, because an escape room isn't necessarily about being smart or dumb. It's about being pliable in your thinking. It's about sort of thinking askew a little bit.
And
yeah.
Because
many relationships?
in the real world, if you walk into a room and the clock on the wall is static, it's not moving, you're thinking, why doesn't this guy put a battery in his clock? But in an escape room, that's going to be a clue. And watching that click for people is really cool.
How many relationships have you seen end?
Tons. We get people coming in on first dates,
No.
and when they're halfway through, that girl is never calling that guy. And we get the worst ones are families, like extended families, and they just turn on each other and they just go Lord of the Flies on each other and just get vicious.
I mean, see, this is the part I would kind of enjoy. I kind of want to
fun.
be like watching it, not in it. I mean, I kind
It's
of want
fun
to
to
be in
watch.
it.
Yeah, how
but
much to sit up there with you and just watch all of this
Right.
humanity go through the place
Yeah.
for a couple hours.
But I also feel there's probably people on first dates that do seem like they're going to kill each other, but they get out of there and they just like make out like crazy.
Oh, I'll bet.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Like
And
the
now-
passions run high.
Oh, completely. Now, obviously, you said within 30 seconds if someone comes in and is not having a good time, how, and it's the same thing with comedy as well, I'm assuming, how soon into just watching a person and observing them do you know, oh, this person's not, either they're going to make it or they are not long for this world of escape rooming?
Oh yeah. You can tell walking in. They have to, when they walk in, they have to take their phone and scan a QR code and sign a waiver. Our bathrooms are also not readily evident. I'm located in an office building, so you have to leave my suite to go into the lobby to use the restroom. And if you have a problem finding the bathroom or you have a problem signing the waiver, you're probably not going to do so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there other subtle signals or identifiers that you go, yeah, or this person's got it? If they know how a QR code works, is that like half the battle?
It's not so much, maybe it's not so much the mechanics of whether they're capable of doing a thing. You know how you meet a person and they either have something behind their eyes or they don't. It's kind of like that. It's, yeah. You can in any part of life, you can tell when you get face to face with someone, you can tell if that's a person you'd like to have two conversations.
And both of those conversations you don't want to have inside a room locked with a clock ticking. Have you tried these? Did you try them before you knew the code, the secrets? And how did you do?
I did not. I've been there. I opened the place in 2016. I've been there for 8 years going on. And when we opened, I did go and play a couple of competitors in the Milwaukee area. But I walked in knowing our rooms.
So just that gave you a sense of Is it kind of like you do one escape room, you've started to kind of, the boundaries and the rules of, okay, it's going to be this, it could be this, like
Yep.
the number of choices you have for each thing.
Yeah, the variances are not much.
Mhm.
Once you get sort of what an escape room is and the formula of things, most of them are fairly similar. It's just bells and whistles and props that are different. But you're typically going to have a stopped clock. You're typically going to have an item that's got multiples of it that you have to count. There's going to be riddles, plays on words, things like that.
Okay. Now, is it correct that once you do one room, that room is dead to you?
Yes.
Okay. So we get out of the apartment. It's a GD miracle. But secondly, we can't go back in there and do it again. Or we could,
you
but we'd be out in
can.
5.
I'll take your money twice, but you're kind of wasting your time. Yeah, nothing changes. In 8 years, every combination to every lock, every clue is exactly the same as it was the day we opened our place. We do get people, though, that will come in, say, with a work group. We do a lot of corporate team building events. It's an excellent team building exercise for workplace.
Or the worst thing ever, but yes.
Or the worst thing ever, yeah. But we'll get like some guy who will come in with his accounting firm for a team building thing. And then 2 weeks later, he'll come in with his family and play the same room and not have told them he was there before.
Of course.
Now he appears to be like a super genius. And he's like, hey, maybe we should try this.
Oh,
and everybody's impressed. Yeah.
So he's leaning on the secret panel that turns the door. That's.
You need some sort of like added thing that you can just throw in only in those instances, just to throw that guy who tries to, or girl who tries to just screw with their friends and loved ones.
I wish there was. Yeah. I wish there was. I've thrown people under the bus, and I mean, that counts welcome too. Back to people and things like that. But the worst instance of that, I don't know how appropriate this would be, and you can edit. So, just before COVID, this was like mid 2019. We had a middle-aged white guy come in on a Sunday afternoon with and he was like in his 50s, with a probably 20-year-old, excruciatingly attractive young black girl who was obviously being paid to be with
escape his room. Yeah.
And they played, and they were all over each other, and he was getting his money's worth, in a manner of speaking. Right. And then the following Sunday, same time slot, same room, this guy came in with his family.
Oh.
Comes in with a hooker one day, comes in a week later with his family. And we didn't call him out. Obviously, we're not in the business of
no, game respects game. I get that.
He's the story of him. His name was Tom. The story of Tom is still legend around.
Oh yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Oh man, we got to get Tom on the show. Let's be honest here.
Wow.
Tom is probably dead from syphilis at this point.
See, I was really hoping, I really wanted that story to be that the date, the professional was so annoyed with him that she came in and in like 5 minutes she solved all the clues and was out. She'd been in there with many other customers and was just like, I'm out of here. I'm done with you.
So how has, as we kind of wrap up, running a business with this theme and this idea, like you're dealing with the public, you are dealing with the human foibles of all of us, you're seeing so much. Has it changed your outlook and expectation of humanity for the better or for the worse? And do I want to know the answer to this question?
Right.
It's actually I being a comic, and which means I'm also a writer, I do a lot of thinking about myself and belly button gazing and how is life affecting me. So I have an answer to that question. It's both, because on the one hand, it reinforces stereotypes that aren't necessarily positive about people.
Guy's named
And on
Tom.
the other
Gotcha.
hand, it also, watching someone who you thought would fail do really well is really heartening. And it like I had said earlier, it's watching people figure things out is one of the coolest things to be able to do, and so few people get to do it that it kind of, it makes you appreciate people more, and it makes you appreciate what people go through and how they deal with life, because watching people, everybody thinks differently, and you have an appreciation for that person who doesn't turn their turn signal off when you're behind them. You kind of get it, like they're, yeah, it's really cool.
For more information and to find an Escape the Room near you, check out their website, escapetheroom.com. You can find more information about the Milwaukee branch at escapetheroom.com/Milwaukee, and they are also on Facebook, where they're at facebook.com/escapetheroommilwaukee.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters, located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?